Welcome to the channel, guys. My name is Jess. So the current segment of Bitcoin price action could be leading to a parabolic rally across the market, including new market cap highs for total 3. On the short time frame price action, we're seeing some clear signs of compression, and with the weekly candle close only 48 hours away, the big question is, does this short-term price action support the potential macro breakout? We're going to dive into the charts today and talk about exactly that and everything else that you need to be watching out for. Let's get into it. As always, guys, before we dive in, make sure you guys smash that like button and subscribe to the channel to get regular Bitcoin analysis every Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday, and sign up to my free Telegram for more regular Bitcoin updates. If you're a trader and you're interested in joining my VIP trading channel, be sure to message me down below on Telegram. VIP gives you exclusive access to my personal trading setups with exact entry points, targets, and stop losses. Alrighty, guys, so jumping into the charts, you guys know the drill. Let's start off by talking about the recent price action and preface the video before we jump into our analysis. So the preface for today's video is this weekly candle close. Right, we're 2 days away from it, about 48 hours or just under 48 hours away from the weekly candle close, and it is a really important one for a couple of reasons. First of all, being the fact that obviously we are currently at a weekly all-time high in terms of, this potential next candle close, and the most recent one closed at around $118,000 or $119,000, which is a new high for Bitcoin. But also because if we take a look at the RSI, we can see that across the last year and a half of price action, Bitcoin has seen diminishing momentum. Buying pressure throughout this entire period from $74,000 onwards has been in a downtrend, which we can see very clearly through these last 4 highs over here. However, very recently, and in this current weekly candle and most previous weekly candle close, we have, for the first time in this year and a half period, pushed momentum in a high trajectory for the first time, essentially forming a potential uptrend here on the RSI. And with this next weekly candle close, what we're really watching out for, guys, the next sort of big thing that we're watching out for is this downtrend over here, right? To see a structural breakout from that momentum downtrend that we have been traveling in within that last year and a half period. So we've got 2 days left of the close and some very important price action over the next 2 days to determine whether or not this next candle close is going to signal a breakout or yet potentially another rejection from that structural downtrend and a, new segment of downtrend in the price action here for Bitcoin. Now, of course, Bitcoin in this situation is not going to rally alone. If we do end up seeing a parabolic breakout over here, momentum flipping bullish for the first time in 1.5 years, and a new or yet another new high for Bitcoin, total 3 or the altcoins are very likely to follow suit. Bitcoin dominance has been aggressively dropping over the last couple of weeks, falling below a major uptrend over here, and total 3 right now is testing a huge level of resistance, right? We pushed past or into this liquidity zone very recently after breaking above $950 billion, just as mentioned in my last video, so that was right on target. Pushing into this liquidity zone now, we're testing this next one here as our current level of resistance, right? So that ranges from 1.05 to $1.1 trillion. And right above that is the all-time high for the altcoin market cap at 1.16. So if Bitcoin does end up rallying here, we're very likely to then push past or at least into this level of resistance, which is what total 3 is currently struggling to do, right? We can see that very large wick testing that level there and then almost an immediate rejection within that same daily candle close. So without further ado, let's jump into the shorter time frame price action and talk about the compression that we're seeing here. So we're on a 4-hour time frame over here, and we can see pretty clearly that ever since this most recent high at $123,000, we have seen a sort of compression, right? We've got lower highs here developing against a very clear sort of segment of uptrending price action and higher highs as we hold the 50 EMA, that blue trend line over here, that blue dynamic level of support here on the 4-hour chart. And so while we compress, the natural question is whether or not the compression is going to lead to a breakout, with the measured move being the height of this symmetrical triangle, taking us to $126,000 as our next target, or whether or not the compression is going to eventually lead to a breakdown and the measured move, therefore taking us down to potentially lows of $110,000 as next level support, or even these slightly higher levels right here, right, at 112, 113, and $115,600. Now, before we get into any more analysis, guys, let's really quickly touch on one of the most important parts of being a successful trader, and that's managing your trading fees. So BTC has partnered with me to help you guys out and give you 15% off all of your trading fees. So if you'd like to support the channel and you're still really looking for a great non-KYC exchange with lots of listings, high liquidity, and security, BTC is definitely a great one to check out. And as a thank you for signing up under my affiliate code, you can get 10% off your VIP membership if you message me your membership number when you check out your VIP membership. Thanks. Let's get back into the charts. Now, generally speaking, symmetrical triangle patterns or symmetrical structures in general do have a continuation sort of trajectory. So over here, we can see that Bitcoin has entered into this sort of pattern of consolidation from the bottom side up, right? And so the pattern of continuation should therefore lead or more likely lead to a breakout over here, right? Taking us to $126,000. But as always, these sort of parallel structures or symmetrical structures can go either way. If we see a breakdown of support, that will obviously then signal a breakdown or a continued downwards move instead, taking us to $115,000, $13,000, and then $112,000. And even taking a look at the daily chart as well, we can see the price is very, very indecisive right now. We didn't exactly print a doji candle in the most recent daily candle close, but we do have very large wicks on either side, showing us we have a lot of selling pressure here that we're unable to push past at the present moment, but also a lot of absorption at these lower levels, right? At this horizontal level of support here on the daily time frame that we have continued to close above at $117,000 to $117,700. So going back to the short time frame then, let's talk about our triggers. What exactly are we looking out for over the next 2 days to signal whether or not that breakout is going to happen or if it is just not happening this week? So on the short time frame here, we have our structure. That's very clear. But alongside structures, we're also looking at horizontals as well and momentum, right? That's going to give us a leading indication of whether or not this pattern over here is going to lead to a breakout or a breakdown. So taking a look at the RSI, we have alongside this downtrend in the price action, a similar downtrend on the RSI. That's our sort of validation, but also what will be a leading indicator of a breakout. If momentum flips bullish before we break out of the structure, we know that we're approaching this next level of resistance once again with more bullish buying or more bullish pressure than we did in the past, leading to a higher potential for a breakout and then a retest of 123. And above that level of resistance, $126,000. And also alongside that is the lower trend line on the RSI. These two lower or slightly lower lower lows on the RSI. So what we're seeing here is bullish absorption. So we've seen increasing selling pressure at these 2 points of retest of the uptrend over here. But at those 2 points, we've seen absorption of that selling pressure. Now that is very, very bullish. And that tells us that even though there is an increase in selling pressure, the buyers are successfully stepping in to defend Bitcoin at those levels. So if we continue to see that happening and we see higher highs print alongside that trend line, despite these continual lower lows potentially on the RSI, that is a really good indication that this period of consolidation is once again more likely to lead to a breakout over here. And otherwise, if we see another dip in RSI, a lower low once again, and the price action does not manage to absorb that, so we break down from our uptrend, which also has confluence with that 50 EMA, so a massive, massive trigger, we're very likely to see a little bit of a correction as opposed to the breakout. And the weekly time frame is less likely to look bullish over the next 2-day period. Now moving on to talk about horizontals, we've already touched on a couple of them, but let's zoom into the hourly chart and talk about the exact levels that we're watching out for in this breakout or the breakdown. So right now, Bitcoin on the hourly chart here, across all time frames really, is testing this level of resistance right here, starting at 117.8 up to pretty much $118,000 flat. And it was previously a level of support. We can see that right here in my last video. We were testing it as resistance, pushed above, we saw a little bit of a deviation high, failure to sustain that breakout there, and we fell back below, and it is currently once again a level of resistance. So right now we're testing that. That is the current level. If we manage to push above that as a support, that would be a good sign, and another sort of a short time frame leg upwards to potentially retest our upper trend line once again. And on the way upwards, we have $120,000, this level of resistance here. We can see it mapped out by that most recent high, that sort of most recent rejection from the downtrend. And then, of course, we have the all-time high at $123,000 before seeing, I guess, the end of the volume profile in that larger, more aggressive rally up to 126 being the measured move. Now on the way downwards, in terms of levels of support, we've already talked about the dynamic one being the 50 EMA on the 4-hour chart, which has perfect confluence as well on the hourly chart with the 200 EMA. So again, very clearly a really important dynamic level of resistance that sits right against that lower uptrend as well. And then just below that, we have $115.7 thousand, which sits just above this volume gap on the VIPV profile right here. So if we drop below 115.7 thousand, and as always with repetitive retests of support, the more we retest support, the more likely we are to see some sort of breakdown at some point. At some point, the buying pressure at that level is going to be absorbed, and we will push past that wall and into the next level, the end of the volume gap at $113,000 before the next level at 112. Right here, we can see that on the hourly chart very clearly, and then $110,000, the high for that prior period of consolidation that we had right here. Well, actually, you can see it a lot better on the 4-hour time frame. The high for this period of consolidation, right, the one that we just broke out of, and which triggered this rally up to 123,000. So that's a pretty short video today, guys. We're mostly just talking about the short time frame, exactly what we're watching out for the next day or 2-day period, and everything is leading up to that next weekly candle close, whether or not we see a push upwards on the RSI, and whether or not that strength from Bitcoin is going to facilitate continued accumulation of altcoins and a push past this almost final level of resistance before we tap 1.16 trillion and break out into a new market cap price discovery. And I'll be seeing you guys in my next video where we finally talk about that weekly candle close and what it did. Alrighty guys, that is all the analysis that I have for you today. Thank you for tuning in for another episode. If you enjoyed the video or you learned something, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel to get regular Bitcoin analysis every Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. And sign up to my free Telegram for more regular Bitcoin updates. If you're interested in joining my VIP trading channel, be sure to message me down below on Telegram to get exclusive access to my personal trading setups. And if you want 15% off your trading fees, you can create your account using my affiliate link. Hope you guys have a great week, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!